Okay, sorry, please continue, you were saying.
Oh yeah, no, like I was just how what an impact music has on our lives, and how much of a hold it has from also from the past, like music and certain songs, certain genres, how they remind me of a certain part of me and a part of my life, and I
Mm,
get really emotional about it. And then is that serving me? Because it may not, it because I've been really weaning myself off the addiction to be using music as a distraction, and as I don't, because I rather actually listen to Kirtan. It's really true. Like, I'm not just saying that to look good. It's been
mm,
something I've been really trying to do, and it's working. But every once in a while I'm like, whoa, and I'm pulled and into, yeah, other music. And then I found this dance music, which is, heavy dance music. And they're first I was thinking, oh, they probably have no idea, but then they mixed in even something else,
mm,
like in English they were even saying over the beats, they were saying for Kali Yoga, it's the way of getting liberation, is the only way. It's the only way to chant the holy
mm,
names. And then they did, and it was real Hare Krishnas doing that. So, and I
mm,
loved it. And then
mm,
I was thinking, oh, is that diluting? Is that,
mm.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, no, this is actually a really deep topic. And yeah, there's a lot of things to be considered. I mean, you've actually brought up a few different points. And welcome, Ananda Krishna. He's just been doing some puja duty in SoCal. Um, yeah, I mean, you've actually brought up a few different, I mean, there's a few related topics here because one topic is just the issue of sound in general and music in general. And then the other is, do we mix our music and our kirtan, or do we keep them separate? That's also like another kind of topic here. And so I'll start with just the music in general thing, and that, and maybe I'll just speak from a personal perspective on that. But also, sorry, I actually didn't really sleep last night, so if I'm a little incoherent. Normally I would have just canceled it because I thought it would just be a few of us. I thought you'll all be very forgiving, so it's okay. So I'm sorry if I'm a little incoherent, but it'll come out. Um, Srila Marsh, he specifically mentions this, right? That sound, there's a very nice quote where he says sound has the highest capturing potency in this world, right? And it's actually the most, it's very interesting. The sound is the most subtle um, element in the material world, but it's like a bridge to the spiritual world. It's actually the grossest, like heaviest element you could say in the spiritual world. So it's kind of an interesting bridge, right? So it has, because it's so subtle and it's very penetrating. It has this great penetrating capacity. It can penetrate our consciousness very deeply, sound. Um, then we do have to be careful, right? Because the music we listen to, the sounds we listen to, they can affect us in ways that we may not be aware of, right? And so we do need to be careful with that. And my own experience is actually something I've been thinking about lately because, I mean, I've never been like really into music, but as a teenager, I bought a few records. I used to like some artists and stuff, um, and then, but over the years, I've just been dropping it more and more. And then I got to a point where like maybe once a year I would listen to something if I was having a moment. But now I'm at a point where I've just like stopped because my experience with music is that it really, as Shilashidamar says, it really captures you. And like, I'll listen to like one recording and then it'll play in my head for like the next week. It's like it really penetrates you so deeply. the beat, the music, the words, they just penetrate. And then it's like you just start to feel like you're a slave of that music, you know. So now I'm at a point where I it's been like maybe 2 years or something since I just don't want to. It's very attractive and charming, and it may help in some emotional moments, but ultimately it feels like it just takes over your consciousness, you know. Um, so yeah, I mean, you know, obviously it can be difficult for, you know, we can't tell people just give up music, you know, that can be something that's just a part of us at a certain time in our life. But I would just say be careful and especially certain types of music, right, that have heavy dark energy, you know, they're going to affect us. So I know that's not where you're coming from, but just like as a general comment, right? You know, like more sattvic music would be safer to listen to. But then coming to this issue of kirtan, this is a really tricky thing because on the one hand, you know, like listening to kirtan that is, you know, attractive and suits us, you know, the particular musical taste that we have, you know, that can like attract us to listen to kirtan more, right? But then at the same time, it's also, um, sorry, my brain's going here. But at the same time, it's also, you know, there's more focus on the material aspect, right, of the kirtan, the style, the beat, the instruments, and so that can become a distraction, right? But at the same, I mean, there, as I said in the beginning, I don't think there isn't exactly a right or wrong here, you know, because basically we can say that type of music that's, you know, using that's emphasizing that type of kirtan that's emphasizing the musical aspect, we can say it's namabas, right? Namabas, or at its highest point, it can be namabas, right? That means like a shadow reflection of the name. So that can be good and that can be bad, right? You know, ultimately namabas is not what we're striving for, but namabas is also, or, you know, like you'll see in the talks of Srila Maharaj, and I've heard whenever he gave initiation, he would tell people to not only to avoid offensive chanting, namaparad, but to also avoid namabas. And he always speaks somewhat heavily on it, right? And he refers to it sometimes as negligent chanting, you know, hazy chanting. And but Srila Maharaj, we have to remember he always speaks from this very high absolute platform. Maybe we were discussing this recently, I can't remember. You know, but then Gurudev, you know, he pointed out, you know, for us, Namabas is a good thing, you know, like from the point where we are, you know, Namabas would be a step up. Namabas can give us liberation. Ultimately, liberation is not what we want, but liberation, you know, it would also be helpful for us at our stage. You know, we're not on such a high platform. So it's a tricky point, you know. And you know, and I hear different opinions from senior devotees on this, you know, like you know, some of my senior friends, you know, like Shuddha Shava Prabhu, for example, you know, like and others too, others who I won't mention their names, you know, other sannyasis. Like generally what I've picked up from them, what they've shared is like when they want to listen to nice music, you know, they'll listen to Jimi Hendrix or whoever it is, right? But when they want to do kirtan, they keep it pure. Like that's, you know, and that's also my own feeling as well. Like if I want to enjoy good sound, I'll just listen to some music that I like. But then if I'm going to do kirtan, I prefer to keep it pure. Um, but you know, again, that's not an absolute statement. You know, that is a feeling, you know, that some practitioners may have. and if someone feels that that type of kirtan, like Ananda Moy, this nice Japanese devotee who's, pretty much heading up our preaching in Japan, that's actually one of the main ways by which we're bringing people in, that she is a kirtaniya. She's very talented. She does concerts all over the world, and she mixes it. She plays guitar and harmonium and all these things, and she performs a particular type of kirtan that's very attractive. And that's something really real in her. Like when I'm with her, when we're staying together somewhere, she'll be playing, like other kirtaniyas around the world, It might be John Harrison or others, and she really likes that a lot. I don't think she listens to mundane music at all, but she really loves hearing this very attractive, musical kirtan. It inspires her a lot, and it inspires other people, so how can we say that's a bad thing? It's actually a wonderful thing. It inspires her, it inspires others, it attracts people to Krishna consciousness who otherwise may not have been attracted. Not everyone goes for the, mridanga and cartels, often not played very well. So yeah, I mean, I think if listening to that type of kirtan is inspiring you in Krishna consciousness, then, you know, keep going. I think whatever inspires us to continue on the path is a good thing, you know. But I would say, like alongside that, to also take the time to tune in to for example, our gurus, because there's also the the purity of the person who's chanting, right? So that in terms of like how it's affecting us, their vibration, right? So like personally, if I'm listening to Kirtan, I'll pretty much only listen to Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and sometimes Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, who was the godbrother of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, because I feel like their vibration is just so pure, right? And that's touching us on a soul level, like beyond what we can even be aware of, right? So, so I would say, like, that if someone does like to listen to this type of musical, attractive kirtan, that's fine. If that's inspiring you and motivating you to be more engaged in Krishna consciousness. And um, because, another thing is that, like, as we said, right, sound has this very capturing potency. And so, like, what you'll find, like, if you're listening to an attractive beat of the Maha Mantra, that's just going to play in your head, right? Like when Ananda Moy plays like her kirtans, and those beats will be playing Dandavat Bimal Krishna Prabhu, like that Maha Mantra tune will be playing in my head for days. So, again, that is namabas, at best, that's like some hazy chanting. But that's also not a bad thing, that's also something that can keep me chanting the Maha Mantra, right? So I would say that if that is inspiring someone, then go for it. But I would also just say alongside that to also take the time every so often to tune in to that, higher vibration, um, that comes from the Paramahamsa Vaishnavas. That would be my suggestion. And another thing, which is not such a popular thing to say, is that is that and this is one of the first things, like when I went to live in India in Navadvip, it was one of the first things that I was told by multiple like senior Vaishnavas. I remember Madhusudana Maharaj mentioned it, and also Goswami Maharaj. And because when I was working in the office, I would sometimes play kirtan like recordings of Srila Gurudev and Srila Sridhar Maharaj. They play it in the background, and I remember they at different times they got upset about that. Like we don't want to play kirtan as background music. You know. So my policy now is that sometimes if I'm if I'm like cooking, for example, then and I want to hear kirtan, then I won't play our gurus at that time. Like I might play someone else doing kirtan. So I'm like, well, I don't want to make Gurudev my background music, but maybe someone else, and then that's not as offensive. So that's another thing. And sometimes devotees will play kirtan in the car, which is fine, like if you're really paying attention, but then sometimes, it'll just be like chatting going on and and Gurudev singing, Jaya Radha Madhava, not that's not so nice either. So that's another thing, if we are listening to that high vibration of kirtan, to be careful, right, and respectful of how we are doing that. So yeah, it's a really nuanced um subject, lots of different points to consider. But yeah, I mean, on the whole, I would say if something is inspiring you, then and one other interesting thing is that someone asked Srila Govinda Maharaj about like playing kirtan with other instruments, and Gurudev, and it's recorded in a letter. Um, Gurudev, he said, that's fine to do for preaching, but he said, but inside the temple, we want to follow what Guru Maharaj liked, the pure, simple Mridanga cartels. And another thing which I've heard from several senior Vaishnavas, from who were in ISKCON in the early days, they said that Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, like his idea with the harmonium, and this is something not very well known in ISKCON today, but Srila Prabhupada, I was told his idea with the harmonium was that it would be used outside of the temple for preaching purposes. And he also liked the harmonium and he used it in some recordings. But for the temple programs, he liked to keep it to Mahaprabhu's standard, right, of Mridanga and cartels. And so I think, just having these types of standards and perspective, is helpful for us, that we may enjoy other types of kirtan, but we also know like this is like the pure standard. And I also want to engage in that when possible and tune into that when possible. And just because it's less distracting, like you can really just focus on the prayer and the kirtan, and you can't really get carried away. Or you're less likely to by like the style and the music and all of this. And so, just having, we may do different things and practice different things, but having some conception of like what the highest standard is, that's also very valuable. And to be able to keep that in mind, that's also very, very precious. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say. What are your thoughts on that, Ganglila? How does that all
Well,
strike
thank you so much. It's really I feel very happy that I brought it up because I want to be harmonized about the fact, and about that I am participating in ISKCON temple events, and they do have sometimes they bring in other instruments, and um they can be more frilly, like more like um towards performing very well, the engaging
you?
singers who have a certain talent. So, and I must say, it's for me, it's very uplifting. There's
Mhm.
some kirtan I love listening to because it's really, really uplifting. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, like you mentioned, one of them is like Johnny V. Harrison, and I also like her hybrid stuff, like with Willow, who is the daughter of Will Smith. They have this album
Mm,
Rise. It's beautiful. I just love it, you
mm,
know. And so, and sometimes, yeah, no, thank you very much for sanctifying that it is okay, because it really, it is for my bhakti practice. It does not
mm,
distract me and want me to go elsewhere. It actually brings me there where
mm,
I want to go, you know, to the
mm,
lotus feet of the Lord. No, this was really, really good. Like I don't want to have a part of me would thinks like, oh, is I shouldn't be doing this. You know, I don't like that. And it comes up sometimes when I do get carried away with really good kirtan. I dance and all that, you know,
mhm.
and then yeah, so this is really helpful. This is really
Oh,
helpful. And sometimes, you know, I really also long for the more pure expression, which I know from for example, last time I was really just like the whole house was rocking at the Govinda Mela in when I was in SoCal, how everybody's jumping up and down, and it's like an earthquake. It's just so wow, what is this? What are we doing? It's so amazing, and I love it, but it doesn't happen all the time. So I go for what I
mm,
can go for.
mm,
Um, and yeah, no, that's really helpful. Thank you so much.
mm. Oh, I'm so
And
glad.
funny enough, it's like I lately, actually not lately, like the last few weeks, I've been really solid with, I play it in the car to, for me to sing along to chant. So I do call and response, and yeah, it's
Mm,
kind of amazing. I wish maybe there is like a playlist, maybe anybody knows if we could put that on WhatsApp, if there's any, you know, YouTube or recordings from, you know, from the Sri Chaitanya Sarasvat mission, because mostly you know, I am going for the ISKCON Kirtaniyas because they have quite a few talents there. But if there is anything, I'd love to find it.
we do have a few playlists. Probably Vishabhanavi is about to share some with us in the chat.
Yes, do.
And that's something Ananda Krishna has also been working on, uploading things
Oh,
on
great. Yeah.
SoundCloud. And there
Yeah.
are a few playlists. Manasa
Okay.
Krishna, I don't know if you know Manasa Krishna, Australian devotee. He, with some of the Russian devotees, they've recorded
Okay.
um, like
Yeah,
they
that'd be great.
there was an album of Sharanagati recording all the
Oh,
songs of Sharanagati. Oh, there we go. Vishabhanavi
Vish-
shared something.
yeah, thank you, Vishwa Banavidas. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And so and then they also recorded the whole of the Kirtan guide as well. Um, but that playlist, I think it sometimes disappears. Well, I'll look that up. Maybe that's even the one Rishabhanavi just shared. And so basically what they've done in these recordings is they've recorded all the songs and they're following the Mott style of Kirtan, which is fairly simple. But they've also done it well, with good singers and people devotees who can play the mridangam kartal very well. Um, so you have both elements there. So yeah, we can let's see what's in the chat here. This is this is the Gaudiya Gitanjali. Yeah, this is the one with the full Kirtan guide. And that's also very helpful for like learning the Kirtan, like
Oh, this is
trying to learn
perfect.
the
Yeah,
song.
I love it.
Yeah, and those are, I think, maybe they're all Manasa or some, maybe it was the other one. Some of them were done by a Bengali devotee, Kamal Krishna, who sings very well. But these might all be Manasa. But he's very good too. Um, so yeah, thank you, Vishabhanavi. Okay, yeah, I'm really glad we could talk about that because it's actually been something I've been thinking of too. Because, I sometimes will be like, like you're so strict, like I'm not going to do it unless I do it perfectly. And then you just end up not doing it at all. Like I'll, like sometimes I won't listen to Kirtan for a long time because I'm like, I'm only going to listen, like if it's only Gurudev and I'm really focusing. And then that moment doesn't come very often, right? So then I just end up not listening. but then like a few days ago, I played Krishna's Babaji March when I was cooking, and yeah, and it was just so wonderful. And I'm like, okay, this is probably Namabas because I'm not like giving my full attention, but like it's actually just so wonderful. And now this Kirtan's going to be playing in my head, for like a few days. So yeah, can be a bit tricky, working all these things out. But on the whole, whatever is inspiring us, that's what I've understood from our gurus, whatever is inspiring us to keep going in Krishna consciousness with enthusiasm, it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing.
I'm so happy to that I brought it up. I'm so happy for to receive your kind answer. It's just, yeah. There's this tiny part where it was like, you know,
There's this
yeah,
one
there was a
quote.
doubt, and that doesn't be, I don't want to have that, because the doubt is
Mm,
when I move away from Krishna consciousness, because Krishna goes like,
mm,
look, if you're thinking of me and you feel good, yes, go
mm,
for it. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But that's just my deluded brain telling me that. But now I feel like this is having somebody more bona fide like yourself makes me feel, because I'm already doing it. I'm already really using the
yeah,
beautiful Kīrtan what's out there and the recordings, and it's
yeah. And
really
that's why it's
it's been
there.
amazing. Actually, it's been an amazing practice. It's very good for me
Mhm.
because I've been you know, really into music for really long, and now I feel like I can let go of a lot of these addictions to certain songs. And if they come and if they start to play in my head, I actually put the Maha Mantra on the melody and see if it fits. If it does, it's a go, and if it doesn't, it's a no go.
There's this one line in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he's quite fond of it. Yena tena prakarena manasaha Krishna nisevayat. And it means by any means possible, fix your mind on Krishna. Again. And Srila Prabhupada, he would translate that as by hook or by crook. By hook or by crook, fix your mind on Krishna. Whatever will help you to fix your mind on Krishna, do that, go for that. So, and Rishabhani just shared another playlist here. This is our Jaya Shri, which has quite a bit of kirtan, and most of this Ananda Krishna's actually done. And he's also made a Spotify with some kirtan from our
Could
gurus.
we also put them in the Jai Shri WhatsApp group for all the people who aren't here?
Yeah, let's do that.
And for because sometimes I don't.
Rishabhanvi, I'm gonna make you an admin so you can share some of these wonderful links in our
This is
WhatsApp.
really great. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Um, oh, I'll do it after the meeting. But yeah, Rishabhanvi, maybe you can share some of these links um, after the meeting. Yeah, and then another thing, if you can find although I can find it too. I think it's actually on the Jayashri SoundCloud, the Sharanagati recordings. Um, those are also there somewhere, I think. So yeah. Oh, okay. And Ananda just shared some. Oh, he shared the Spotify. Great, great. Okay. While you're there, Nanda, can you make Rishabhanavi an admin as well? And she can share the other links? That'd be great. Yeah. All right. Well, would anyone else like to share any thoughts on this topic, or bring up another topic? We still have some time for the end of our meeting. Another thing, which is, I was so surprised when I heard this. I heard this from Devashish Prabhu. that, we all know how strict Srila Maharaj was about Kirtan, to the point that he would get upset if someone was playing the cartels too loud, right? Because he really wanted the emphasis to be on the prayer, right? And the mood and the words that you're chanting, right? So he was very strict, like his room, Goswami Maharaj mentioned once, like his room was right above the Nat Mandir where they would do the daily kirtan. And so he was like listening and, keeping an eye on things. And Srila Shava Prabhu, he experienced that, that once he was playing the cartels too loud and and Srila Sridhar Maharaj sent someone down, like, oh, Guru Maharaj wants to know who's playing the cartel so loud, because it's distracting from the main focus. And so, that's normally welcome, Sadhvi, Dandavats, tuning in from very early in the morning in Norway. That's normally how we hear Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He was quite strict, and but David Shishwabu told me that, and I was so surprised that once a year on Gaur Purnima day, Srila Sridhar Maharaj kind of opened the door to all types of kirtan, and basically he allowed um people to come for the program like with whatever instruments they wanted, and play, however they like on that day of Mahaprabhu's birth. It's like just like this joyous celebration. And he was happy for that, that people could come and bring any instruments they wanted and join in the kirtan with that. I was really surprised to hear that. So that's kind of interesting too, that he did leave some space for that. He left space for that. And we also heard from Gurudev, this also surprised me, that on Janmashtami, they used to have, I forget the name, but there's this traditional dance. It's called, I've heard it referred to as stick dancing. I think that was how Gurudev called it. Some type of, maybe you even know about it, Gangalila, but yeah, and I think there might be different versions of it in different regions in India, this type of stick dancing. Um, and so this is something, yeah, this is the point. The Bridge Basis, right? The residents of Vrindavan, it was something they would have done sometimes, like it was a tradition. And so in honor of that, like what the Basis used to do, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in the Mat, and I don't know exactly who it came from originally, but Srila Sridhar Maharaj allowed it on Janmashtami, that they would have this traditional stick dancing in the Mat, and that surprised me because normally we hear of Srila Sridhar Maharaj as, very conservative, and, he wasn't like into like dramas of the Leelas and all of that, but like once a year on Janmashtami, on that special day, he allowed this type of performance. Um, and Gurudev mentioned that they stopped it in the end because like there was a fight or something that broke out one year with the stick dancers. And so then they stopped it after that. I don't know what the details of that were. Okay, so Ganglili, you have another related question. Yeah.
Yeah, it is related. So
Mm.
also in Almat, we often just, there's like we get carried away and we're all happy and we're dancing and chanting and we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then the answer is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then comes Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And the answer is Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
You mean the
So
response?
it's kind of, yeah, the call and response. So it's like
Mm,
half the mantra is chanted, then the other half the mantra is chanted.
mm,
Whereas ISKCON does not do that, or rarely. They sometimes do it, just take it apart a
yeah.
little, just say, we repeat just one phrase. So what is the proper way, or are both ways proper to chant the continuous and call and respond with the full mantra, or the call and response with half the mantra?
I mean, as far as I'm aware, they are both correct. And I did hear on one recording, Srila Gurudev, he, and maybe someone else will remember as well, where Srila Gurudev, because it fit with the like the rhythm, he like suddenly shifted into singing the ISKCON style of the full one line instead of breaking it into two. No, I mean sorry, singing the full Maha Mantra, um, and then the response, the full Maha Mantra, instead of splitting it into halves like we normally do in our mat. I did. I was surprised. I heard that once on one recording. But generally, yeah, we do sing it differently from ISKCON. We sing it in two parts. And I haven't heard, that one is right or wrong. I think they're both fine. I think it's just a question of style. No, I came across on Facebook, you come across so many crazy things sometimes, and I came across someone in some ISKCON forum asking that, and they were like, the answer was that like it's offensive to sing it, any other way than we do it and the way that Prabhupada did it, and it has to be exactly like this, or you're going to hell, that type of tone, But I think both ways are fine. I think it's just a question of style. And there may be some particular significance to chanting one way or another, but I haven't heard that. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
And Dandavat Vishaka. I guess
Dandavat, Bimal Peru.
I didn't really quite catch the first question, but I can kind of get the gist, I think. But I was thinking one thing I read that was Kumkum Didi posted it recently, and it was by Yamuna, one of Prabhupada's early disciples, and she had mentioned that they were in San Francisco, and there was at the time there were a bunch of devotees there who were like really really good musicians and really good singers, and they wanted to go out and do a tour, um,
Mm,
as a band and to play the Maha Mantra and do kirtan. And Prabhupada actually told them no. Because
mm,
he says, you know what, if you go and do that, then the people they'll only be attracted to the sound, to the like the outer, the performance, so to speak, the
mm,
not necessarily the substance. So he actually told them no, but I think, there's a lot of different ways of looking at it. I mean, I think ultimately the most important thing is there's a lot of kirtan out there. Like there's groups up here where I live that, they have kirtans around and stuff, but I'm not going to go partake of them because I don't understand. I don't know the consciousness that's behind their kirtan. I don't know where their kirtan
mm,
comes from. I don't know if it's bona fide or not. And I think just that's something to be aware of because I mean, when I was in Jagannath Puri, we went to Gambira where Mahaprabhu's stayed for so many years, and there were people there chanting a mantra, and it's actually Sahaja. I had no idea because I'm like, oh, they're names of Krishna, they're chanting this particular mantra, but it turns out it's Sahaja. So I
mm,
just I just think it's okay. I'm not saying like anything. I'm not trying to be the, oh, you should only do this or that, but I think it's important that we're careful with what we're hearing. Like what's the consciousness behind these things? Because ultimately, like kirtan is seva. Like we're not doing this for some sense gratification or for our own personal enjoyment necessarily. Like we're trying to give,
mm,
and we're also trying to have a connection. I think ultimately, and I mean sometimes like we kirtan's great, and when we're with the devotees and we're chanting, I mean we can all get a little carried away, but it's I think in that I think it just has to be done in the proper mood. I think we're trying to give of ourselves. We're trying, we don't want to be the center or the spotlight if we're leading or whatever else, but I think just ultimately coming back to just consciousness and just if the people are, if they're devotees and they seem like they have a good um they mean well, I guess, so to speak. I don't know the proper way to put it, but I think that's
mm,
just kind of the most important thing if you ask me. I mean,
mm,
Gurudev and Guru Maharaj, like they have certain ways that they chanted kirtan, and so we try to chant that kind of kirtan. And and for me, I just love I don't think you need much more than kartals and mridanga, honestly. Like
Mhm.
I used to go to the festivals before I joined Armot. You know, they had these huge festivals at this temple in Utah, and they started out just with kartals and mridungas, and slowly over time it became rock bands and everything else. And I feel like it kind of lost a little bit of that authenticity of like, I don't know. For me, it's just there's something more real with it, and I just I don't know. I don't necessarily need anything more, but that's who am I anyway? But anyway, just that's just some things I was thinking about. I just think it's we're trying to follow our Gurudevs, and so we just try to do what they've given us, at least from
Mm.
my perspective. And that does not to say that other things are wrong. I listen to a lot of different kirtans, but I think there are like SCS Mission on YouTube probably has a couple videos with some kirtans. They did a really lovely one. I think I've shared it a few times. When I was in Thailand, I actually was part of the recording, but I think it's Ishtadeva is the title of it. But it's a really they did a really very beautiful video production and the sound. They recorded it really beautifully. But that's a real I listen to that all the time just because it was such a great experience being there and the save and everything. But anyway, lots of nice kirtan songs of the heart. I'm sure that Gangalila, I don't know if you have that one yet. That's of Gurudev chanting and
Yeah,
with the
I'm
devotees.
like, do you have the link? It's like, that sounds wonderful because I know you're a good Kirtaniya because I've been in your Kirtans, Bimal.
I, that one's from that's Gurudev. That's Gurudev chanting on.
If you have a link to the Thailand
We
one,
have that album on SoundCloud actually, the full Song of the Heart. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, it's on the Jayashi SoundCloud, but we can share that specific link as well.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. That was I wasn't leading that kirtan in Thailand, but I was there. Like I was just in the back. But it was really all sweet devotees there in that one as well. But
Mm.
anyway, that's what I'll say. I do want to send love to Ananda Krishna Prabhu. I'm thinking about you, brother, and my dandavats to you all.
We do have a recording of Bimal Krishna. There's another nice album which I forgot to mention. They recorded in Salt Lake, and I think that's on our SoundCloud as well, of the Shikshashtakam songs. And Bimal Krishna is actually leading one of those. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Bimal Krishna. And I think what it really comes down to, if we just like simplify the whole thing into one condensed conclusion, there's the absolute perspective and there's the relative perspective. And the absolute perspective is that we just want to listen to pure kirtan coming from Paramahamsa Vaishnavas, right? That's really the absolute. Um, and but then the relative side is that, that isn't, there are many practitioners, they want to hear other types of kirtan, and it's something that inspires them, and there's many who are just attracted to different styles. And so we hear from our gurus different comments, so like Srila Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj, it's nice to hear that story, right, that he told those devotees, not to start this band, and he's giving that absolute perspective, right, that this is going to be a distraction. But we also hear that he encouraged George Harrison, right, that you're doing important work to attract people to Krishna consciousness, and he recorded that, My Sweet Lord, and he's actually brought so many people, right? So I
I'm
think it
one
is.
of them. I'm definitely one of them. I was only a child and I'm like, what is he singing? And nobody heard it. And I'm like, no, in the background, chanting the Maha Mantra. Magical.
Mm. So our gurus are giving different instructions at different times to different people, and they're giving us these two angles of vision, and it is, I think, helpful for us to have a clear understanding of the both of these sides. And as we were, I think, discussing in one of our recent meetings, and Rishabhanavi, demonstrated like we're here, we're going here, right? and and trying to realistically move forward in a way that works for us. um so yeah, I think it comes down to that. And we also saw with Srila Govinda Maharaj also, he would make different comments at different times, and he would encourage generally devotees, who wanted to, as we said, right, there was a letter where he gave that instruction. If someone wants to use different instruments for preaching purposes outside of the temple, then that's suitable, that's appropriate. But inside the temple, we keep this particular standard. And I also know that Gurudev, on a personal level, he also liked Kirtan pure, like I was quite surprised. One of our Hungarian devotees told me she witnessed once when another Hungarian disciple, she was a harmonium player, and she wanted to like demonstrate that to Gurudev, and she was surprised that Gurudev just like outright said no, and I was surprised because normally Srila Gurudev would be fairly accommodating, but in that instance he just clearly said, I don't want to listen to that, like that was his you know. So yes, there are these, and then in our temples, of course, he was strict about keeping Srila Sridhar Maharaj's standards. So again, it just comes down to these two angles of vision, and working out where we situate ourselves in moving forward, right? We all need to move forward in a way that is sustainable, right? We need to move forward in a way that is sustainable for us. We can't, forcefully jump to a place where we're not, right? The highest, right? And as you said, very importantly, we have to consider the consciousness, right? And of who's singing. And so like our gurus, when they're hearing Kirtan, they're not hearing the music, they're hearing the consciousness of who's singing, right? Like we hear that it was, I think it was Vamsi Das Babaji. It could have been Jagannath Das. No, I think it was Vamsi Das Babaji. He's one of the well-known Babajis, who was, around the era of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and just on the cups of Saraswati Thakur as well. But there was this one incident where, was it Vamsi Das Babaji or was it Jagannath? I can't remember, one of them, but I think it was Vamsi Das Babaji. That Srila Saraswati Thakur, he had sent some brahmacharis like to spend time with him, and there was one, and then the Babajis, they're not preachers, right? And by that I mean they're not diplomatic. They like to live alone, and they just say it straight, right? And so we hear of this one occasion where one brahmachari was singing one song, I believe a song of Sharanagati, or something in that mood. And Vamsidas Babaji's comment was, "Oh, he's very expert in breaking the mridanga, but he cannot break the wall of ego on his heart." Right? Like something like that. Like he was just very straightforward, right? Like he's not listening to the music, he's listening to the ego that's coming from the voice of the person singing, right? Just like that occasion, similarly with Srila Govinda Maharaj, when someone asked him what edition of Chaitanya Bhagavat to read, and Gurudev said, "Oh, well, this edition coming from this mission will be because we don't have our own edition, right? At least in English. And this edition from this mission will be better because the one from that mission will have more ego in it, right? Like he's not just thinking of you reading the text or Chaitanya Bhagavat, but he's thinking of the consciousness of the person who's made the translation and who's prepared this publication, because that's also going to enter your consciousness, right? So yeah, that it is it's helpful for us to also keep these things in mind, right? While it may inspire us at our level to hear, a more diverse type of kirtan, we also will keep that in mind, like what's the highest standard actually, and what is ultimately what we want to move towards, right? How are our gurus seeing things? What's their vision of reality? it's something that we want to keep in mind. So yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, Bimal Prabhu, and thank you for bringing up the topic, Gangalila, and sharing your own reflections. And we've had Sulalita also tune in, also early hours in Turkey, and Ramananda Prabhu is tuned in from San Jose. Welcome, everyone.
Sorry, I joined late. I went to Sorakkal. I just came back.
Yeah, this time is a bit
Krishna
awkward.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. I just made it late. Just catch up in just in time.
Happy you're here. Next week we'll change the schedule again because I'm traveling to Europe on Monday. So yeah, we'll change the schedule again. I think probably be better for everyone.
Done. Thank you so much, Vishaka.
Oh, I'm just remembering too that famous story of Gorky Kishore Das Babaji, right? Where there was that Bhagavatam reciter who came and insisted on reciting the Bhagavatam where Gorky Kishore was staying. And he actually did it like for his own prestige because he wanted people to see he's associated with Gorky Kishore. Gorky Kishore didn't want to hear him, but he kind of like imposed himself. And so he, for some time, was reciting Bhagavatam at Gorky Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj's place. And then when he left, Gorky Kishore told his attendants, bring some cow dung and clean this area, right? And Gorky Kishore's servitor, he was surprised. He says, what? The Bhagavatam was just recited here. That's the purest vibration. And Gorky Kishore said, oh, did you hear Bhagavatam? I only heard taka, taka, taka. Taka's money, right? Taka, taka, taka. That's all that I heard, right? So they're living on that level.
Yeah, so many people reside in India. It's very hard to find purity. Yeah, it's mostly business. Yeah, there are some pure one, but it's hard to find discriminate. Yeah, I remember that story also. Yeah, he also used to give other example also.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Gorkishore Das Babaji.
Hey, Vishaka Didi, too. Just really quick. I know we've all heard this story, but even Saraswati Thakur, wanting to hear Sri Rupa Manjari Pada and the Srinath Maharaj, like they say, there's a singer who has a beautiful singing voice that he wasn't interested in that. He didn't want to hear the tune, So many things we can think about, but that's just kind of what came to me too. Another example.
Yeah, very nice. Thanks for reminding us of that. Yeah, Gurudev always liked to remember that. He only wanted to hear that from Guru Maharaj. All right. Well, I'm so happy we could enter this topic today. Does anyone have any last comments before we close? Okay, so we'll have another meeting tomorrow on USA time, and then Saturday we have one that's just on European time, and then we'll change this. I'll have to work out another schedule. So I'm traveling on Sunday to Spain and Portugal, and then I'll be in Europe for like around 6 weeks or something. So we'll work out another schedule. I think something like what we had before, right? I think it was like 9 a.m. California, 6 p.m. London or something like that. So, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for your good company. It really keeps me alive. My travels, very grateful for that. I truly am. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. all the assembled Vaishnavas ki jai, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai. And haven't checked our calendar. I'm not sure. Maybe someone knows if there's something on the calendar today.
Vrindavan Das Thakur's appearance day.
Is that today?
Yesterday.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness me. Yeah, Vrindavan Das Thakur's appearance day. Okay, that was actually yesterday for me, and that's today for you. Wow. Oh my goodness, now I feel terrible. We should have said something about, oh dear me. Vrindavan Das Thakur. We were mentioning Chaitanya Bhagavat just now. So a few words. Vrindavan Das Thakur, the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat, very great Vaishnava associate of, not the Vrindavan Das Thakur. No, he did have some association, right? In his, no. He didn't have direct association with Mahaprabhu. His mother had. His mother was Narayani Devi, and she, as a young girl, 4 or 5 years old, there's that famous story, Mahaprabhu gave her some of his pan, and she chewed that and became, broke out in all these symptoms of divine ecstasy. So that was Narayani Devi. And then later, she was the niece of Srivas Thakur, I believe. So she would be around that whole group of exclusive Kīrtan at Shiva Sangam. And then it seemed like she married someone who was not a Vaishnava. And then her son was Vrindavan Das Thakur, who he did not meet Mahaprabhu in person, but he's described as the last disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. So he traveled with Nityananda for some time. So he had, quite close association with Nityananda Prabhu. And then ultimately he wrote Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is an important text. Oh, that's right. Oh, thank you, Ananda Krishna. So this is Denor, and this happens to be right next to our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj's birthplace. It's like 5 minutes drive away. Denor, it's a small village where Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote Chaitanya Bhagavat. And this is said to be the original manuscript, the upper one with the bigger leaves. This is said to be a part of the original manuscript. There's a temple, there's a very charming, lovely temple dedicated to Vrindavan Das Thakur, which is there. And his personal deities, I think, are also there, aren't they? So yeah, special darshan for us today. And then our Gurudev's birthplace, Bamampara, right? That's just next door. So yeah, so Vrindavan Das Thakur, he was born on one of the islands of Navadvip, in that particular area is Mamgachi, and Srila Saraswati Thakur actually established a Gaudiya Math there, which is still running today. And that would be our last stop on the 4 days of Navadvip Dham Parikrama. That would be our final stop. It was always a very, like joyful gathering there, like 4 full days of parikrama, and then a very happy conclusion at this temple of dedicated, to Vrindavan Das. It's in his birthplace, right, the Gaudiya Math. So it was always a very joyful conclusion to our parikrama. And Vrindavan Das Thakur, he's especially known for his devotion to Nityananda Prabhu. He's always singing the glories of Nityananda Prabhu. So, and he's given us this very pure scripture in the line of pure devotion. So these are the 2 texts, right, of Mahaprabhu that we are generally recommended, right, to read. Chaitanya Charitamrita primarily, and then Chaitanya Bhagavat also. Jai, these are his deities, right? Gorni Tai. Hi. Amazing. And that looks like Radha Krishna there too on the side. Yeah, when you're in Bengal, everything comes to life so much, like it's such a privilege, like actually go to these places and see where our gurus have lived and carried on with their bhajan, and everything becomes very vivid. So Jai Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur, Jai. Yeah, and in his Gurudev, he wrote that wonderful short poem, glorifying both Vrindavan Das and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, because Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he wrote later. He came a little like one generation after Vrindavan Das Thakur, so he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita later. And in his text, Kaviraj Goswami is like repeatedly giving honor to Vrindavan Das Thakur. And he always refers to Vrindavan Das Thakur as the Vyas of Chaitanya Leela, right? When we hear Vyas, we normally think of Veda Vyas, Vyasadeva, right? Krishna Dvaipayan, Veda Vyas, who gave us who compiled the Vedic text, right? But Vyas is actually just a title, right? It means one who disseminates a particular knowledge. And so Kaviraj Goswami refers to Vrindavan Das Thakur as the Vyas of Chaitanya Leela, the one who gave us Chaitanya Leela. And he always honors him in that way. But then it's very interesting, you see in the text of Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur, he doesn't know Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's writing earlier on. But he mentions a few times that Vyasadeva will come. He says, I'm not the Vyas of Chaitanya Leela, but the Vyasadeva will come. The Vyas of Chaitanya Leela will come in the future. He mentions that. So it's very interesting. They're both giving honor to each other in this way. But then Srila Govinda Maharaj, he wrote this wonderful verses, it's a few verses, where he harmonizes these two things and he honors them both as both being Vyasas of Chaitanya Leela. And because he points out, right, that Chaitanya Leela has these two layers to it, that there's that aspect of Mahaprabhu, which is acting as, more in the mood of an avatar Vishnu, coming to establish the Dharma of the age, spreading Kīrtan, uplifting the people, and so on. That's one aspect. But then there's that deeper, more esoteric aspect of Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, coming as himself to explore the mood of Srimati Radharani. And that's a Krishna who descends more rarely, right? And he's coming with his own private purpose. And so Gurudev points out there are these two layers to the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. And so he says, Vrindavan Das Thakur, he is the Vyas of the revealed, public pastimes of Mahaprabhu. He's describing more, his distribution of the Kirtan movement and so on, and focusing more on the earlier Leela of Mahaprabhu. Whereas Kaviraj Goswami, he's the Vyas of that more internal aspect of Mahaprabhu's Leela, coming to explore the mood of Radharani and focusing more on the later pastimes. And so they're both Vyasadeva in this sense, and they're both to be honored in that way. So it's a really wonderful Dasa Vrindavanam Vande Krishna Dasa Parumtata Chanavatar Chaitanya Leela Vistar Karino Dvo Nityananda Parabja Karuna Rena Bhushito. This is the most beautiful line. He says, they're both decorated with the merciful foot dust of Nityananda Prabhu. Because it's an interesting point. Both of them, before they went to write their respective works, they both got specific blessings from Nityananda Prabhu. Vrindavan Das Thakur in person, right? He was the last disciple of Nityananda, but Kaviraj Goswami had this dream where Nityananda Prabhu appeared to him in this very wonderful way and instructed him to go to Vrindavan, and he'll get everything there. And then it was in Vrindavan that he received the request from the Vaishnavas there to write Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that line is so beautiful. Dvo Nityan, they're both decorated with the merciful foot dust of Nityananda Prabhu, and they're both serving as Vyasadeva in these different ways. So we honor both of them. So Jai Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur ki Jai. It is his appearance, Tadiya Shubha Avirbhav Mahamahotsava Titi ki Jai. Okay, wishing you all a happy weekend, inspired weekend, and see you all next time. Jai Shri Gurudev.
Ki Jai.
Jai Gurudev.
Bye.
Here we go.